She stood perfectly still while the officer's hand disappeared into her handbag, the ballroom's chandeliers throwing fractured light across her face like broken promises. 100 eyes clung to her, some curious, some amused, a few annoyed that their charity dinner had turned into a spectacle. The silver cutlery trembled against porcelain, a violinist stopped mid-note and pretended to tune. The manager, who had snapped his fingers for security, leaned on the back of a chair, smiling like a man certain the trap he set would snap shut. Beside the officer, a woman in a navy blazer watched every movement with clinical focus. And the woman at the center, the one in the deep blue dress, held her breath, her gaze steady, as if she'd practiced for a moment like this and wished she'd never needed to. Before we continue, if you're watching us for the first time, ELLIOT Stories welcomes you with a warm hug. This is where real-life style stories meet heart, justice, and jaw-dropping twists. Smash that subscribe, like, and share button, drop your city in the comments so we can shout you out, and stay to the end because you won't believe where this goes. The officer said quietly. I'm going to remove items one by one and show them to you. Please confirm if they're yours. Her voice didn't shake. They're all mine. He pulled out a card holder, a folded silk scarf, a room key in a leather sleeve, and a small silver brooch shaped like an olive branch. The manager craned his neck as if the truth lived at the bottom of the bag. The crowd whispered, little waves at the edge of a storm. I did not ask for this, the woman in blue murmured. You asked to be treated like any guest, the manager replied. And this is how we treat guests who trip alarms. What alarm? She asked. He tapped a small black device on the banquet table. That one. It pings when a high-value item leaves the boutique unpaid. The officer paused. Sir, where is the complaint in writing? 3 separate calls to the desk, the manager said, jaw tight. Necklace missing. Boutique owner says it's this evening's display piece, from the boardroom sponsorship. The woman in blue tilted her head. For a second, something flickered behind her calm. Fatigue, maybe, or the memory of a long day that began before sunrise. She looked across the room toward the staff doors. A pastry chef in a paper hat stared back, nervous. A bellhop had frozen with a tray of sparkling water, the glasses shivering like tiny earthquakes. The officer reached in again, his fingers closing around a hard shape. He drew out a velvet case. The crowd sucked in a collective breath. The manager's smile sharpened. There we are. Open it, she said. The lid clicked. Inside, nestled in satin, lay an emerald necklace, too green, too loud for a night that already had a heartbeat of its own. A whisper rippled through the room. The woman in the navy blazer glanced at the officer, then at the manager. The manager spread his hands. We value all our patrons, but theft is. Who said I was a patron? The woman in blue asked. Someone laughed, quick and brittle, then silenced themselves. The officer said carefully, if you have a receipt. I don't, she answered. Because I didn't buy it. Then how did it get in your bag? The manager asked, voice sweet with victory. She studied him. You tell me. A waiter hurried up with a tablet clutched to his chest. Mr. Holt, he whispered to the manager, we tried the security office twice. They're not answering. Because they're busy, Mr. Holt said. As am I. Busy with what? The woman asked. Reviewing footage, he replied. And, may I have your name for the incident report? She smiled faintly. You'll have it. The officer lifted the necklace with 2 fingers and slipped it back into the case. We'll sort this out in the office. No one is placing anyone under arrest. That's generous, Mr. Holt said, not meaning it. The room began to breathe again, chatter rising from different corners like birds startled into flight. The violinist started playing soft, apologetic notes as though music could erase humiliation. A woman at table 7 whispered, I knew she was trouble the moment she walked in alone. A man in cufflinks muttered, new money, as if that explained gravity and the moon. The woman in navy stepped closer to the woman in blue. Would you like me to accompany? Yes, she said. And bring your phone. They moved together toward the corridor as the officer held the velvet case like a fragile verdict. Mr. Holt followed, his pace light, like he was already rehearsing the press-friendly version of events. The corridor smelled like polished wood and citrus cleanser, lined with framed photos of ribbon cuttings and smiling executives shaking hands. A housekeeping cart stood abandoned, a bottle of bleach rolling gently with the wheels. The officer led them into a small office where monitors displayed feeds from ballroom entrances, lounges, elevators. 2 security staff stood, startled, half-eaten sandwiches on the desk. One fumbled for the pause button. The officer raised a hand. "Keep it running." Mr. Holt gestured at a feed-tagged boutique wing. "There." He pointed to a figure in blue, elegant and unhurried, gliding past the boutique display. The angle was poor, the camera sat too high, tilted down. The figure was the right height, the right curve of hair. She paused near the jewelry case. The timestamp matched 30 minutes earlier. The feed jittered, regained itself, the figure shifted, and then, there, a black handbag. "Zoom," Mr. Holt said. "It'll pixelate," one of the security guards warned, but he zoomed anyway. The image smeared, a watercolor of a moment. The figure set her bag on the display edge. Her hand moved. A second figure appeared for a sliver of a second, just a shoulder, a slice of sleeve, then vanished behind a potted palm. The figure in blue lifted her bag, and the feed jumped again as if someone had tapped the cable. "Convenient camera hiccup," the woman in navy murmured. Mr. Holt didn't look at her. "There's enough." "Enough for what?" the woman in blue asked, still impossibly calm. "For us to detain you while we contact the boutique and—" "And what?" she asked. Silence hummed. Somewhere in the hotel, a glass shattered and a cheer went up from a bar like none of this mattered. The officer kept his eyes on the monitors, the necklace case steady in his hand. "Let's do this differently," the woman in blue said at last. She stepped to the desk, her fingers hovering over the controls, not touching them. "Pull the south entrance feed, the one that faces the valet." She looked at the guard. "Please." "Please," she repeated, and the guard obeyed almost involuntarily. The screen split to show the valet drive. A stream of guests, headlights sweeping. A man in a porter jacket arguing with a driver. And there, half hidden in the edge of the frame, a boutique employee smoking, keycard lanyard glinting like a tiny sun. He flicked his ash, looked left and right, then pushed the employee door with his hip and disappeared inside. "Timestamp," she said. "Now pull the corridor feed 3 minutes later." The guard switched. The boutique employee reappeared, walking too fast, hair blown back, eyes darting. He passed the display case. He didn't stop. But a shadow did. The shadow loomed across glass and velvet and emerald, a beautiful, incriminating shadow that had no person attached on screen. "There's your hiccup," the woman in navy said. "Glitch," Mr. Holt insisted. "Reflections." "I want the head of security here," the woman in blue said softly. "Now." "We don't bring him to guests," Mr. Holt snapped. "This is handled by management, which is me." The woman in blue finally turned to him, the weight of her full attention landing like a quiet gavel. "You are not management." He laughed. "I am the manager here." "No," she said. "You're a man occupying a title." "Let's keep this respectful," the officer murmured. The woman in blue glanced at the necklace case in his hand. "May I see that, please?" "I won't touch it." He opened the lid again. The emeralds winked, indifferent. She leaned in. "You can't see it under ballroom light. You need daylight, or, failing that, the cool LEDs from the kitchen corridor." She looked at the guard. "Camera 7, pan to the service hall." The guard did. The light shifted on screen from gold to clear white, and the necklace changed with it, less green, more glassy. "Paste," she said. "Good paste, but paste. The real one has microscopic inclusions like reeds trapped in ice. This one is perfect in a way real gems rarely are." Mr. Holt scoffed. "Oh, now you're a gemologist." "No," she said, her voice still even. "I just know what's mine." The officer closed the case. "We need the boutique owner." "He's in the ballroom," Mr. Holt said. He saw her near the case. "No," the woman in blue said. "He's not in the ballroom. He's on a call he doesn't want anyone to overhear." "How do you know that?" the officer asked. She exhaled like she'd been waiting to breathe. "Because this is my building. And that boutique is my tenant." The room went very, very quiet. Mr. Holt's smile melted like wax. The officer blinked. "Your building?" She nodded once, just once, like a signature at the end of a very expensive contract. "And right now, my patience is almost empty." The security guard swallowed. "Should I call the owner?" "Not yet," she said. "Call the chief engineer. And ask him to bring the network logs. We're going to find out who made the camera hiccup, and then—" She turned her gaze back to Mr. Holt, calm as dawn, dangerous as truth finally walking in. Then we'll decide who goes home with a job tonight. The chief engineer arrived carrying a laptop under one arm and the confidence of a man who knew where every hidden cable and dusty server lived. Without a word, he set the laptop on the desk and began typing, his fingers moving like he was racing a clock only he could hear. Network logs, packet drops, and any irregularities in the last hour, he said. Mr. Holt crossed his arms, trying to sound in control. We don't share back-end data with guests. The woman in blue didn't even glance at him. That's fine. I wrote the policy you're quoting. The engineer paused mid-keystroke, smirked slightly, and carried on. Lines of code and timestamps streamed across the monitor until he froze on one entry. Here. Camera feed 5 was manually rebooted at 1943. 10 seconds later, a looped clip replaced the live feed for exactly 30 seconds. That's when your hiccup happened. The security guard leaned closer. Who has permission to run loops? The engineer clicked open a directory. 4 usernames appeared. One belonged to a technician out sick. Another to the head of security, who wasn't on shift tonight. The third was a generic maintenance account. The last, Holt M. The officer's eyes locked on Mr. Holt. Care to explain? Mr. Holt's tone turned defensive. Shared login. Could have been anyone on staff. The engineer shook his head. We ended shared logins last quarter. Audit compliance. The woman in Navy's voice cut clean through the room. You overrode a security feed covering a high-value display during a public event without documentation. That's not just against policy, it's grounds for termination and investigation. This is ridiculous, Holt snapped. The officer, still calm, extended his hand. Sir, I'll need your phone. My phone contains confidential. Then you won't mind if we preserve it for the record. Reluctantly, Holt handed over the phone. The engineer plugged it into the laptop, mirrored the screen, and began scanning. One app stood out, VendorView, giving remote camera access. A series of messages popped up from a contact labeled Louis B. Louis, yo, you sure? Boss lady still here? Louis, switch the demo piece with the pace set. Boutique gets the press. We get the sale tomorrow when she returns it. No cops. Louis, change of plan. Make it the lady in blue. Teach her some manners. The officer's jaw tightened. Who's Louis? The guard answered without hesitation. Assistant manager in the boutique. Been here 6 months. Bring him, the woman in blue said. And the boutique owner. Minutes later, both walked in. Louis's eyes darted around like a trapped bird. The owner, polished and calm, tried to take control. What is the meaning of? Sit, the officer said. When they saw the messages on the screen, Louis broke first. He told me it was harmless, a marketing stunt. That she'd just pay for the necklace to avoid embarrassment. The owner's mask cracked into irritation. You fool. Enough, the woman in blue cut in. She looked at Louis. And you agreed. Louis's voice was barely a whisper. I didn't think it would go this far. You both conspired to frame a guest, the woman in navy said, who also happens to be the owner of this hotel. The boutique owner's head jerked toward her in shock. Owner? Yes, the woman in blue said, her tone like steel under velvet. And I decide who does business here. Tonight, you don't. The officer stepped forward. Mr. Holt, Louis, you're relieved of duty and will remain available for further questioning. Sir, he nodded at the boutique owner, your lease will be reviewed. Mr. Holt laughed once, hollow. You think you can walk in here unannounced and pull rank? I didn't pull rank, she said, her voice calm but final. I pulled the truth. Rank just makes sure it sticks. Security escorted Holt and Louis out. The boutique owner followed, already fumbling excuses about misunderstandings and publicity. The officer turned back to her. I'm sorry, truly. She shook her head. Don't be. Just remember, when someone points a finger, always check what's in their other hand. Minutes later, she re-entered the ballroom. Conversation faltered, music wavered, eyes turned. She smiled faintly and stepped to the microphone. A brief matter has been resolved. Please enjoy the rest of your evening. A ripple of applause swept the room, not loud, but warm, the kind that acknowledges more than it says. She left the stage, pausing by the housekeeper holding a tray of water. For your staff, the woman said. For all of us, she replied, taking a glass. The chandeliers above caught the light in her eyes, steady, clear, unshaken. Somewhere deep in the hotel, the hum of honest work resumed. The kind she built this place for. Moral lesson: power means nothing without integrity. Titles can be given, respect must be earned. And the truth, no matter how delayed, will always outshine any lie. From ELLIOT Stories, no matter who doubts you or tries to bring you down, your worth isn't defined by their accusations. Stand tall, hold on to the truth, and let your actions speak. We're rooting for you, always.